you had a lot of executives that didn't want to deal with Detroit because what they knew about Detroit, they learned by dealing with these niggas. And it was all G shit. They wasn't giving a fuck about no deal because they had money. So they turned out multiple deals. Streetlordz, Eastside Chedda Boyz, Blackballing, they turned out multiple deals from multiple mainstream, large-scale labels because in their mind, we got money. You can't offer us no $1 million because we already got $1 million. They wasn't thinking about the overall impact of what it would have meant to have a Detroit group signed. Yeah. And then what it would do.
To begin the process of building that infrastructure that we longly awaited for, yeah.
Absolutely. They was also, these niggas operating on gangster time. I ain't criticizing them because they were gangster niggas. So they ain't operating on, okay, I'm going to take the deal. It ain't about the money. It is about, they could have been our first young Dolphs, independent, but they could have worked their way into a cash money deal. They had just watched Master P do basically like a deal with Priority Records and Universal, right? So they had to take 360 deals, right? They could have led the way. They had Cash Money and Master P them as examples. They didn't do that, right? And they didn't do it because of they have a dope man mentality. Why would I do that? They weren't thinking about the contacts, connections, and resources. And even the ones who were in negotiations, they didn't take that knowledge. They didn't take that information and spread it to the whole city. They took that knowledge, they had it, they got it, and they kept it to themselves. You can listen to the members of Streetlordz, Blackballing, and Chedda Boyz, for example, and you can it was division amongst them. Not from the very beginning, but you know, when shit started to explode, it was all division, bro. They wasn't sharing information, trying to push Detroit as a whole forward. They were doing what was best for them. And I ain't knocking them for that. But when people try to attribute the success that Detroit artists are experiencing right now to what was going on back there, that ain't true, number one. Number two, because I was inspired by a Streetlordz wine, because I was inspired by a Blade, because I was inspired by a Tough Tone, because I was inspired by a Rod Day or Blackface or whatever, because I was inspired by the music that they made, because the shit they said spoke to my heart, and it told my own personal story. That doesn't mean that 20 years later, that me being inspired by what they said lyrically, right? Me being inspired by what I saw on Turbulence or Pirelli or Nuke at Night or whatever the case may be, I don't mean that they are responsible for what we are experiencing right now. These artists saluting them and paying homage and you know, big upping them guys don't mean that we owe you shit. We just respectfully acknowledging what y'all did. But y'all are in no way, shape, or form responsible for the success that the Vez, the T Grizzly, the Solid Babies, the Babyface Rays, the blah, blah, blah. They ain't got nothing to do with that shit, bro.
So I am glad that you did say that it's definitely the inspiration part. Yeah. You know what I mean? I think
lyrically,
even with,
not business-wise.
And culturally.
Business-wise.
And culturally.
I give you that too. But business-wise, the business was horrible.
No, I can understand that. I can understand that. So I kind of want to walk through
Come on with it.
So the interview, you actually get the interview, right?
Black man, they ought to be happy I got that interview. Because Jesse James tagged about 10 or 15 different podcasters. I can't remember if Kid was a part of that, right? I'm not sure, but I think somebody told me he was. I'm not sure, so, right? They ought to be happy I got the interview. You know why? Because everything that he listed that he would be willing to talk about, he was willing to talk about it. So what happened is, somebody tagged me, a cat from Joy Road, one of his people, like, man, you got to do this interview with Dawg. You the only one qualified to do an interview like this with him, and you probably the only one who's willing to do it because of the nature of what he's saying. Motherfuckers don't want to touch nothing talking about no Streetlordz wine. They don't want to touch nothing talking about the Chedda Boyz because, and I'm not saying that they're not appropriate or that, I mean, that it's not right, because a lot of death and destruction, incarceration, and harm that took place when those guys were at each other's throats.
And I think that's the question too, like kind of with you being a guy from the streets and knowing the sensitivity of a topic like that, right? For some people, the dispute that they may have with you in particular is, why would you take on an interview and allow somebody to speak on certain things, you know what I mean, that could be consequential to the individuals that's going to be mentioned in this interview and kind of rise back up things that may have been put to rest?
I'm a podcaster, right? I am a trailblazer in the world of podcasting in the city of Detroit. Verifiable. When it comes down to podcasting in the modern urban vernacular, when it comes down to an interview styled, radio room style, microphones, headphones, interviewing people, talking about current events that have to do with the culture of hip hop and the world of entertainment, I've been doing this since 2011. Long before a nigga even knew what the fucking word podcast was. I didn't have any examples of podcasting. I had an internet radio show that came on once a week called Unleashed on Worldwide Core Radio. And what transformed my internet radio show, where I was interviewing the who's who, from Icewear Vezo to Carol Dorsey to Flossalot, since 2011 and 12. What took it from just an internet radio show on the internet radio network was, I said, let's film this shit. YouTube, banging YouTube pocket. Let's film every episode and let's upload it to YouTube to expand, right, the footprint of the actual show. I didn't have any examples of that being done, right? When you look at the Nuke at Nights or the Pirellis or the Turbulence, right, the Dirty Glove thing, when you look at all that kind of shit, that was more like vlogs. They did interviews and shit like that too, but it wasn't a podcast.
Agreed.
Right?
No, agreed.
It wasn't a podcast. It was like uncut or raw BET or behind the scenes shit showing the lifestyle, right? It wasn't a fucking podcast. So to answer your question, bro, why would I do it? Why wouldn't I do it? Listen, it is not Eminem that people give a fuck about in the city of Detroit. It is not Big Sean that people give a fuck about. It's not Dej Loaf. It's not even T Grizzly. Respectfully to all those people, right? Right? What people really want to know is what happened between the Streetlordz and Eastside Chedda Boyz. What was the issue between Rock Bottom and Streetlordz? Mm-hmm. That's what everybody want to know. So I said to myself, when I decided to do it, why wouldn't I take on a story like that? Because that's what everybody want to know, right? Never in a million years did I ever go into it thinking that I'm going to, yeah, it's going to be controversial because of the nature of the conversation. Mm-hmm. But never in a million years did I ever go into it thinking that, albeit it's sensitive issues because of the nature of what took place and what transpired 20 years ago, I didn't go into it with the thought process of trying to create any further division that already existed. I didn't go into it thinking, oh shit, I'm finna use this shit as clickbait to make the whole city go crazy. That ain't what the fuck I did.
And I'm glad that you saying that too, because do you think that at this point, like from the Royce 5'9" situation, the Eminem, and just how vocal you've been with other subjects and the way that you attack these different subjects, do you think that automatically you have, like when a person take an interview with Dawgface, that it's a pre-judgment as to... Of
course it is. I'm a bad guy, right? I've been a bad guy in the city of Detroit since 2000, so I came out of the penitentiary, bro. I did 17 straight calendar years in prison, right? With men that you know, right? I've always, the person I am now, this is not an act, bro. This, how I act, how I respond, right? How I talk. I've been this way. It's not an act. I'm not an actor. This ain't no fucking Tubi movie, right? The Dawgface is Chris X, right? I used to get kicked out the Nation of Islam for stabbing motherfuckers after people in positions of authority over me told me not to fucking do it. I'm not even going to ask for no witnesses. I'm just going to tell you what it is, right? So I've always been the kind of person where I'm going to do what I think is right, even if it's wrong in the eyes of other people. So do I think that Dawgface is being judged? And do I think my reputation precedes me? Of course it does. I want it to be that way. I'm not concerned at all with how somebody view me, because these niggas ain't never gave a fuck about. The worst thing a black person can do in this country is be too concerned with how other motherfuckers view you and perceive you, because that shit ain't gonna pay no bills for you. It ain't gonna help you do a motherfucking thing. And this is a dog-eat-dog cutthroat situation that we in, not just the world of entertainment, right? But the world of entertainment, especially black entertainment on all levels, is the most cutthroat, backbiting, backdooring shit you could ever fucking want to imagine. And I've been on the highest levels in the highest rooms, having the highest conversations with shit, and I know about what these niggas did last summer. I know about all the motherfuckers who have positions of power now who hated on other artists and stopped them from getting deals. I know about the rappers who was in the rooms with quality control. I know about the rappers who was in the rooms with Empire. I know about the rappers who were in the rooms with Sony 300. I know about the rappers who were in the room with MMG, right? Not necessarily signed to them, but in a position to have conversations with them about other artists who those companies had deemed maybe worthy of getting deals, right? I know about these niggas in Detroit hollering this stupid ass Detroit versus everybody shit, but when a motherfucker asks you about Masoe, does Masoe deserve a deal? The reason why Masoe don't got a deal right now is because there are motherfuckers in the city of Detroit right now who, when they ask them, when people from outside of Detroit ask them about Masoe, motherfuckers reported all the negative shit about Masoe and all the beef that was surrounding the Band Gang and Baby Key, Big Key, and all them other niggas. Niggas didn't big up the niggas. A nigga used the most negative part of what was going on with certain motherfuckers to strike them down. Masoe would be a millionaire right now. Masoe would have had a deal before Skiller. He would have had a deal before V's. If it wasn't for these so-called niggas who always holler at Detroit versus everybody shit, right? He would have had a deal right now. On my mama, on my mommy, he would have a deal. So when niggas come to me with that Detroit versus everybody shit, that's a myth. When niggas say Detroit versus everybody, listen, how could it have been Detroit versus everybody? The same niggas who talked about Detroit versus everybody, was it Detroit versus everybody when Rock Bottom and Streetlordz was colliding? Was it Detroit versus everybody when Streetlordz was colliding with Eastside Chedda Boyz? No, it wasn't no Detroit versus everybody. It was us versus them. That's the way it was. Detroit is a dope man city, bro. It ain't no we all come together and sing and do no kumbaya shit. It is us versus them on every level of the game. It is I fuck your bitch. It is I got more money than you. And that's what these niggas been doing. So what the problem is, niggas been keeping it hush-hush because niggas afraid that if I say something about it, or if I expose it in some way, I'm gonna lose friends. I don't give a fuck nothing about losing no friend with these bitch ass niggas.